Chapter 1. The Silent Cathedral. The cathedral stood at the edge of the old city, its towers rising like petrified sentinels against a perpetually overcast sky. No bells rang there anymore. The stone walls were darkened by centuries of rain and incense, and the stained glass windows reflected no light, only dull shadows that shifted when one looked too long. The locals avoided the place, crossing themselves when they passed, whispering fragments of half-forgotten prayers. They spoke of closed doors beneath the altar, of passages sealed not by stone alone, but by fear. I entered the cathedral at dusk. Inside, the air was cold and heavy, saturated with the smell of damp stone and extinguished candles. Every footstep echoed far longer than it should have, as if the vast interior were hollow in ways architecture could not explain. The nave stretched endlessly, its columns disappearing into darkness above, while faded murals clung to the walls, scenes of saints, martyrs, and figures whose forms had been deliberately scratched away. At the far end, beneath the altar, I noticed something strange, a subtle depression in the floor, worn smooth, not by time, but by repeated movement. Kneeling priests, perhaps, or something else. When I pressed my ear to the stone, I thought I heard it. A faint, distant sound, not quite a voice, not quite silence. A slow, rhythmic murmur, like breath drawn by the earth itself. Chapter 2. The Descent. The entrance revealed itself reluctantly. A slab of stone slid aside with a groan that reverberated through the cathedral like a dying organ note. Beneath it, a stairway spiraled downward, vanishing into blackness so complete it seemed to absorb the light of my lantern. The air that rose from below was colder still, and carried with it a scent older than decay, something mineral, ancient, and faintly metallic. As I descended, the walls changed. The carefully cut stone of the cathedral gave way to rougher masonry, then to bare rock. Symbols were carved into the walls, circles intersected by jagged lines, spirals that hurt the eyes to follow, and glyphs that suggested anatomy rather than language. My lantern cast trembling shadows that twisted the carvings into grotesque shapes as though the walls themselves were alive. The stairway ended in a vast chamber. Pillars rose from the floor like ribs, supporting a ceiling, lost in darkness. The floor was marked with grooves, forming patterns too deliberate to be random, yet too alien to be understood. I realized with a tightening of my chest that this place had not been built beneath the cathedral. The cathedral had been built above it. Chapter 3. The Forgotten Order. Deeper within the underground halls, I found evidence of those who once served this place. Rusted chains hung from the walls. Stone benches were carved with restraints, worn smooth by countless struggles or rituals. In alcoves, I discovered skeletal remains clothed in rotting vestments, monks perhaps, or priests of an order erased from history. Their skulls were marked with the same symbols carved into the walls, etched deeply as if done in reverence rather than violence. I uncovered fragments of manuscripts preserved unnaturally well in sealed niches. They spoke of a truth discovered beneath the cathedral long before the city was founded. A presence older than faith, older than mankind, buried not to be destroyed, but to be contained. The cathedral was not a house of worship, it was a seal, a warning disguised as salvation. As I read, the murmuring grew louder. It no longer sounded distant, but intimate, as though it emanated from within my own skull. I felt watched, not from any one direction, but from all of them at once. The shadows between the pillars deepened, stretching unnaturally, and I sensed movement without motion, intention without form. Chapter 4. The Living Depths. Beyond the chambers of the Forgotten Order lay passages that defied reason. The stone walls pulsed faintly, like flesh beneath skin. The floor sloped downward into caverns, where the architecture gave way entirely to something organic. Veins of pale luminescence ran through the rock, casting a sickly glow that revealed vast, impossible spaces. At the center of one such cavern stood a structure resembling an altar, though no human hands could have shaped it. Its surface shifted subtly, as if breathing, and from it emanated the low, endless sound I had heard since entering the cathedral. I understood then that this was not a prison, nor a tomb, but a point of communion. The rituals, the sacrifices, the silence above, all had been meant to keep whatever dwelled here asleep. Visions flooded my mind, cities swallowed by stone, stars wheeling in patterns that denied time, a consciousness vast and indifferent, aware of humanity only as one might be aware of mold growing on a wall. The presence did not threaten, it simply was, and that realization was far more terrifying than any malice. Chapter 5. The Seal Remains. I do not remember climbing back to the surface. I recall only awakening in the cathedral, the stone slab once again sealed, the air above thick with dust and silence. Morning light filtered weakly through the stained glass, illuminating a space that now felt impossibly fragile. The city remains unchanged. The cathedral still stands. The locals still avoid it. Yet I know now that faith, prayer, and stone are merely gestures, rituals performed to soothe the human mind. Beneath the cathedral, the ancient presence endures, patient and eternal, dreaming in the dark. Sometimes at night, I hear it again, the slow, rhythmic murmur beneath the earth. And I know that the seal does not exist to protect us from what lies below, but to protect it from awakening to our insignificant, fragile world.